Well, howdy. I'm Porter.
And I'm Penny. Welcome to Gripping Iron.
Welcome to Groovy Iron. What do we want to talk about today, Penny?
Today we're going to talk about just a favorite topic.
I love this topic.
A lot of people like this topic. It always gets
A lot of people don't like this topic too.
A lot of people. This topic keeps a lot of people away from the church. Our topic today is the word of wisdom.
Word of wisdom. One of my favorite talks.
Word of wisdom, yeah.
One of my favorite talks topics, and the reason why is because in modern revelation, in a church that has so much revelation and so much prophecy that's come true, there's fewer prophecies that have come to more truth, more accurately than the word of wisdom. If you go through the word of wisdom, at the time it was given, it was against the current understanding of nutrition. As we have gotten smarter about nutrition in these latter days, the word of wisdom shines. I mean, it just is 100% there.
And addiction.
Yes, absolutely. When Joseph Smith gave the word of wisdom through Revelation, he didn't know about Starbucks and $13 coffees. He didn't know about methamphetamine. He didn't know about McDonald's hamburgers and the junk food that would be out there nowadays. And all of those things were addressed in the word of wisdom and more. And the reason why people think, well, it's to make us healthy. And I think that's definitely a side benefit. But the reason why is specifically, Penny, why?
It protects us from secret combinations and conspiring men in the latter days.
Absolutely. That first part of the word of wisdom could not be more true when you look and understand these companies that you can literally take a product that everybody knows will kill you. You can put a sticker on that product that says, if you use this product, it will kill you. Then you take that and you charge a lot of money for it and then tax it on top of that. And people will still line up to use that product and make themselves smell bad.
Well,
that is the word of wisdom.
And we'll hate the product.
We'll hate it as they're using it.
As they're using it.
Oh, it's so unbelievable. That is the strength of the word of wisdom.
And wish they could turn back time to never have tried it in the first place.
And it's so conspiring men who give us that product. It is men that are trying to keep us addicted for their personal gain. That is the conspiring men of the last days that all of the word of wisdom is designed for. So yes, it's good for health. And yes, it's good to keep us free of addiction. That's not why. It's to keep us free from conspiring men in the last days. Now, there is a secondary reason, which I don't think we talk about a lot, but I would like to talk about a little bit, if that's okay with you, Penny.
We'll see. What is this?
And that is the idea that I believe that the word of wisdom is also to set us apart. Just like the nutritional laws of Israel set them apart, the word of wisdom also sets us apart. Not that we're supposed to be isolated from others of society, but it keeps us away from other bad influences of society, bad things itself. I'll give you an example. Why are we not supposed to drink coffee? Well, yeah, there's a chance of addiction. Coffee is addicting. I get that. So maybe that's part of it. But I think as we are just part of a coffee culture that just really loves coffee. Really loves coffee. You want a successful business, you put a teenage girl in a booth on the side of the road and sell coffee at a ridiculous price, you will make money every time.
Lines of cars.
Lines of cars.
Even through the summer.
How do you even take the time to sit in that line? Is bizarre. We're not doing that. And because we don't do that, that automatically sets us apart. That makes us a peculiar people. Which I love. Recently, my understanding of that idea of a peculiar people has changed. And, maybe we'll talk about that, maybe we won't. But it just sets us apart. Everything about the word of wisdom sets us apart. And we see that in our lives, how, we're in a community where,
we're it.
Yeah, we're it. And we don't get invited to a lot of things where people want to drink.
We don't get invited to anything because we have like
people weird,
people
man.
in this area, they sell T-shirts that says, this community is a little town with a big drinking problem. Little town in the middle of nowhere with a big drinking problem. that's kind of like T-shirts that are sold because it's so well known that this is a tavern town, a one tavern town, right? Not a stoplight in the place, but we have our taverns, and everything that is celebrated with alcohol.
Yeah.
And so we are weird that way. Nobody, they don't want to feel like we're judged or we're
Nobody wants that
stigmatized.
guy at the party.
No one wants the sober person there, right? To tell their secrets the next day.
Yeah.
No witnesses. But that's been awkward. When we first moved here, that is how we were welcomed with the community. And I think the first time someone came to the door with a pack of beer
and said, "Hey, let's have a beer."
And you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't drink." They were like, "What? You don't drink?" Like
mystified.
Really? Like, are you an alcoholic and on the wagon or what? So that's been interesting. It's been interesting for our children as well, because we also unfortunately live in a community that really encourages safe drinking with the youth. So there's a lot of barn parties and field parties and just a lot of teenagers drinking with social groups of adults.
Yes.
Even teachers.
Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
It's crazy.
Yep. So that has definitely set us apart as far as we are not pulled into as much social things in our community, and we are definitely kind of the odd people in the community.
Short apart. Yeah. Peculiar.
Peculiar, I guess you would say.
And we're okay with that.
I'm definitely okay with
Hey,
that.
if you're not going to like me because of that, then we should just save our time, because it gets much worse from there. So let's just call this what it is.
Yeah.
We also
live in a state where marijuana is legal, and even though in our tiny towns we don't have a stoplight, we do have 3 marijuana dispensaries.
Yeah.
So
that's what's important.
They took over the old bowling alley. So we're definitely outgunned or outmanned with that. That's for sure.
And really, because it's something, because people ask me, well, are you a recovering alcoholic? And I've never drank in my life, but I know for a fact I'd be an alcoholic. And the reason I know is because every male in my line are alcoholics, right? So if I didn't have the word of wisdom in my life, and we're not, my males in my family, we're not nice drunks. We're mean drunks, man. I would be that guy. I would probably be in prison someplace because I got mad while I was drunk and did something I shouldn't supposed to. So, the word of wisdom for me has been a saving grace from my Heavenly Father, which I'm grateful for.
And we've talked about our past before, that we were both raised by convert mothers.
Straight white trash.
Yeah, both of us come from...
First generation out the trailer.
First generation out the trailer, for sure.
I was double wide, so I was a little high scale.
I was single wide. With metal, with like a wood canopy port built over the top. Yep. But let me tell you.
So I married down. Sorry.
We are close. You married down, you wish. We were close, very close to that generation that were heavy drinkers. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this topic is because
we've seen it.
We've seen so much damage in our families. And to this date, I'm almost 50. I'm in my late 40s, right? To this date, every person that I've lost in my life, every person that's died, is attributed 100% directly to not living the word of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandfather was killed by a drunk driver. So that wasn't a fault of his own, but he was taken out by someone not following the word of wisdom. My grandmother's, it was lung cancer. My grandfather was emphysema and lung cancer. My sister, who died at 49, so the age that I am just about now, was a heavy smoker and died of a massive heart attack. So not following the word of wisdom has caused a lot of heartache in my family. And for those people that are still surviving, all of my uncles were dry drunks, which means they all had the distended beer bellies, but never seemed drunk, but you never saw them without a beer in their hand. Mm-hmm. A lot of abuse in marriage, a lot of drug use then in my cousins. My cousins are either in prison or work in a prison. They're, it's one or the other.
Number one killer of families.
Yeah.
Number one.
It just destroys families, and it's destroyed generations of my family.
Yeah.
So, just that one change that the gospel helped bring to my line has made a huge, huge difference in our posterity and the ability to function at a different level.
And really, for kids to excel, for children to excel, you don't have to be great parents. You just try to be bad parents less. That's really kids will do well.
More stable.
Kids will do well if you just don't screw them up. And I know people think it's a constitutional right to screw up our kids as much as we want to because it's America, but really that's all you have to do is just follow the word of wisdom, and that gets you like 50% ahead of the game. It's just, and it's bizarre to me that in this day and age, with all the damage that we see alcohol and tobacco do, not even talking about the hard stuff, right? Because the word of wisdom doesn't talk about the hard stuff. It talks about alcohol and tobacco. Just looking at those two things, that is the killer of families, in my opinion. And I think it's a solid opinion. And we haven't even seen the impact of legalization of marijuana. Penny is seeing it in schools, in the children.
Terrible.
And you just wait till those kids are at an age of making families themselves. It's not going to be good.
We are seeing 6-year-olds coming in after eating edibles that are not functioning, and we don't know how to help them. And there are kids that are starting to do studies now on children's brains who are brought up with marijuana smoke in the house, and their ability to control their reactions, their impulses is really, really not good. They're kids who don't know how to keep themselves from hitting someone, don't know how to keep themselves from acting out, and have a really hard time with impulse control. So we're seeing a lot of stuff in the schools and nationwide. If you ask a teacher will tell you that the problems that we're seeing with schools are not, I'm getting on my soapbox, but it's not because of better testing or things like that. It all starts in the home. And teachers know that. They're seeing it. They can tell when a child comes, when a child comes in smelling like marijuana, and, you got skunk weed on you from the time you walk in the morning, and you deal with it all day, and then they go home and they smell more like it the next day. That child's going to have some pretty severe difficulties in school.
And it's so weird how this can be controversial at all. How people can have any other opinion. We have so much evidence. And what you hear, the bright line stuff being spewed out there is, well, some people have a problem with it, but as long as you can handle it. The trick is, you don't know if you're going to be a person that has that problem until you try it. So you're literally playing Russian roulette with a gun that's got like half the bullets in it, right? I mean, that's the percentage we're talking about. It's like, well, there's a 50% chance. What's your percentage that is okay? I'm of the belief that anybody who has ever drank socially has done something they regret. I know, I've heard the stories. And that's those that, even if they've never get caught, even if they've, been able to manage the stuff they regret, they still regret it. I'm a person that makes so many stupid decisions in my life. I cannot believe the stupid decision. I can't even comprehend what I would do under the influence. So it's weird how it's still controversial and people still try to defend the American right to drink and smoke.
Right. And just to clarify as well, the church has come out with modern day prophecy that does include all of the hard stuff. So recently, as of recently, they've included vaping, green tea, all those things that people have questions about.
But I'm telling you right now, and once again, I'm pretty sure science will back me up, studies and all that stuff. But I think if we were to give percentage, when you see the hard stuff, methamphetamine and all this stuff, you see big problems, right? But I think just percentage-wise, I mean, the problems are more severe with that. But I think there's more people having more problems with alcohol and tobacco by far than people that are having problems with the other stuff.
Well, I watched a National Geographic documentary on alcohol that was fascinating, that talked about, like, after a certain time of night, 90% of people who go into the ER, it's alcohol related. It has something to do with alcohol poisoning, accident, falling, cutting themselves. They're all alcohol related, and how and how difficult that is. And then we know people that work in the ERs and doctors that work in the ERs, unfortunately, downtown where we live in the bigger city near us, where they see all they do all night long when they work the night shift is they patch up people who are either overdosed on drugs or alcohol poisoning. They patch them up, they send them out in the morning, and those same customers come back the next night. So it's such a problem, and it's a problem that we don't talk about a lot in America because so many people are actively engaged in
It's
this
our culture.
behavior
It's what we do.
that it's protected.
We get drunk and shoot guns.
But every once in a while, you'll find some good information or a documentary that really looks at it in the face, and those are good things.
So, and not so we're harping on too much, because really the word of wisdom is more than alcohol and tobacco use.
Mm-hmm.
There is particular guidance when it talks about what we should be eating and eating meat sparingly and all that stuff, which really corresponds well with the whole foods diet. I mean, with our understanding of a whole foods diet, the word of wisdom just sinks in. People don't talk about that enough, but that's really pretty important to really understand. I think that understanding of, whole foods,
Clean, good food, right?
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of us, we have to remember that the other big part of the word of wisdom is we know that our body houses our spirit. So our body is the temple, right? And so what we put into our body affects our spirit. And so even if it's junk food or weight management or things that may give us depression, or, they say even some food dyes can cause problems in kids and adults and things of that nature. The things that we put in our bodies, the things that we do to our bodies are going to directly affect our spirit. So we need to use wisdom in that. And I love that the word is in the title. It's a word, it's a wise thing. These are words of wisdom that we're being given. And I really don't know if we could find a person to argue that point. I think most people would look at the word of wisdom and say, yeah, these are wise things. They might say, but it's my right to do it. But most people would acknowledge that, yeah, it's wise to stay away from alcohol.
And what they do is they often justify it by saying, well, I think coffee is better than sugar.
Or wine has good things for your heart. Or whatever.
You're right. Certain kinds of poison is better than other kinds of poison. Maybe you shouldn't take any poisons. Let's just not do that. I don't know. It just seems simple to me. And so, Penny, as we've raised kids in a world that really likes breaking the word of wisdom, how have we taught them? Because you have to be careful, right? Because we can get judgmental about it. We can get, prideful and haughty and make ourselves seem, we don't do that kind of thing. How have we taught our children about the word of wisdom to where hopefully it's paid off? As far as I know, we don't have any alcoholics or drug addicts or.
They're still young. But I think one of the things that we've taught our kids to embrace from a very young age is we're okay with being weird. We're okay with being different. It's okay. It's not a bad thing. You can be a leader, right? Leadership is a big thing that we teach and talk to our kids about because that's something they'll need in the future. So it's okay to stand apart is a big part of the word of wisdom that you have to drill and kill early on. The other thing is we have very open dialogue. We have really open dialogue with our kids often about a lot of topics. So if they're coming to us, talking to us about things that they've seen when they're at a friend's house, or things that they hear their friends talking about, or things that they've seen at school, or that someone's selling alcohol at a football game, or whatever they're hearing, if they feel comfortable talking to us about it, we're going to make better inroads with those topics, right? So when our kids come and talk to us about an experience they had with a friend's mom or with a friend or something like that who is going down a path that is opposite of the word of wisdom, we will counsel them and we'll say, okay, so we make predictions, I guess is a good thing. Wait and see. Okay, so let's wait and see how that works out. This is what we know from...
Just watch what happens in their life.
Watch what happens and then apply the concept of the word of wisdom to that situation and ask yourself, would the word of wisdom have kept that from happening in their life, right? I have one of my sons, his best friend, who is also on a mission now, who has joined the church, but his family went through a lot. And a lot of it was alcohol related. And there was a lot of calls, in the middle of the evening or
All of it
night
was
where,
alcohol related.
yeah, it was pretty much, yeah, where he needed to be picked up because things were not going well at home. And it was a lot of heartbreak and a lot of pain with alcohol. And my kids have been able, because they've been allowed to have non-member friends, because they wouldn't have any friends if they didn't, right? They've learned a lot through watching their friends struggle through some of their familiar relationships and the things that have happened in their friends' lives. They've watched their friends' families fall apart because of adultery. They've watched their friends' families fall apart because of drugs. They've watched their friends' families fall apart because of abuse and alcohol. And when those things happen and when we're having those dialogues with our children and we're able to connect them to gospel principles and the word of wisdom, that strengthens their testimony, and they can see how that commandment is put in place by a loving God who is trying to spare his children. And we also connect it to anything that we do as far as parenting, as far as, we don't allow you to do this because we want you to be safe. Heavenly Father is a loving parent who wants you to be safe, so he's saying, not to do that. We also sometimes we do it lightheartedly.
And we don't talk about if you do that, you'll be bad.
No.
I certainly say you're stupid if you do that. I tell my kids real sharply, if you do that,
after all this evidence,
after all you've seen and after all we've shown you, you're stupid. And I'm just going to call it what it is. And we're very clear on the people who do that. They're not the enemy. The mentality, the act, the group think involved, that's the enemy. And
I don't even know if I'd use the word enemy.
I would.
Really?
I use it 100%.
I think that the adversary is the enemy who's confused these people.
Yeah, he counts as an enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He counts. Yeah, he is the enemy.
He's in there.
He is the enemy. I think sometimes, too, very lightheartedly, like we'll go through. So we live in a state where alcohol is sold openly in grocery stores. As of the last, 6-7 years, maybe?
Yep.
Used to be
Costco stocked.
Used to be liquor stores, and now there's just alcohol.
3 aisles in Costco.
Yeah, and every
3 Costco aisles.
Every store has revamped their whole store to put these aisles and aisles of alcohol in it.
Big business.
And we see people, and my children have been grocery checkers, so they're just blown away by the amount of alcohol and what people pay for it, and the amount of cigarettes that they sell, and how much our family saves on not having these addictions or not spending all this money on alcohol. How much my husband and I couldn't afford to be drinkers. We couldn't afford to be smokers. How do people do that? How do they live? How do they do that? I've also, so we can kind of say things that are a little bit, those aren't so dark and scary. These are just like practical, like, aren't you glad we didn't, I didn't spend your money on school clothes on this big jug of wine for, however. So there's,
and it's okay to contrast. It's our job. People always talk about, oh, you're not supposed to be judgmental. No, you're not supposed to judge unrighteously. But especially when it's stuff that impacts your family, absolutely use good judgment. And it's okay to contrast. This is where it happens here. This is what happens in your here. And it's not black and white, but it certainly is a percentage.
Just don't mock or degrade humanity or...
Try not to. I might still do it a little bit, but it's just hard.
It is hard. We gotta love our fellow man. But I think that it's important. I know that in my job, I do see they always talk about teachers paying for supplies on their own. The people that I buy the children's supplies for, the people that I'm clothing and bringing extra clothing and underwear and water bottles and all that kind of stuff.
When you have to buy 30 things of crayons for your kids, the reason why is
because parents are still drinking their alcohol and still smoking their cigarettes, and I know it's an addiction, and I know that that's a problem for them. But there are children going without things because of these addictions. And I directly correlate it because if the parent's on welfare, if the parent's on disability, if the parent is on WIC or whatever they need to be on to be able to make it, and they're still able to be an alcoholic or addicted to cigarettes, there is a large amount of money that can go for the child's welfare that is not going to the child's welfare because of that addiction. So, and that's where you go back to the conspiring men. So, do you hate these people who are addicted to these substances? No, you have a lot of pity for them and feel terrible. And the government has not figured out how to help these people. But I tell you what, I do have a lot of bad feelings towards these conspiring men who keep putting this stuff out at the harm of their fellow man and don't really care about the damage that they're doing to these generations and generations of children out there. And so the word of wisdom is directly there as a shield and a protector away from those people who just don't care about you. They just want the almighty dollar.
So anecdotally, when our oldest daughter, was going through school, she came up with this group of kids, all good kids, all smart kids. They're good farm kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are all good kids. Did well in school, yada, yada, yada. Part of the advantage of being in a small school is the scholarship opportunities that are available.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have parents that would get in fights over sporting things because their kids were going to go play in college sports and that was going to be their ticket and they needed the play time to get out there and all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? They'd fight for that opportunity for their kids to go to college and they'd work so hard to get to college and yada, 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 and they'd get these scholarships. And I remember the teachers in our school were just really looked down upon our daughter because she was going to go on a mission. And you're wasting your time because you're not going to go straight to school. That's going to be time you'll never get back.
And you'll lose scholarships.
And you'll lose, which she did. She did not get hardly anything for scholarships, even though she had one of the best GPAs in her class, right? But that's because of the deferment. Fast forward it. Of all those kids in her class that went to college, all of them but two
have dropped out
or got kicked out or lost their scholarships. All of them because of drinking and partying.
Yeah.
They went to the candy store and they went crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody who says to me that, hey, you got to do this and it's okay to do that you're just not seeing it right, man. You're setting traps and pitfalls for your youth. Of those two kids who did, they still had troubles.
Mm-hmm.
They still got into it a little bit too much and kind of
ended up
messed
going
themselves
to
up.
a smaller college, kind of just
And both had to downgrade their
a little
plans.
bit closer to home so that they could,
Meanwhile, my daughter, who went on a mission for 2 years, came back, started school. She's doing fine in school. I mean, she, knock on wood and everything. She is meeting all of her goals to where all those kids have been stunted. My daughter has not. Not because she's better, not because she's smarter, but because she just did not have this challenge of the word of wisdom in her life. That has been a huge blessing in her life.
And BYU has given her scholarships to make up for all those other scholarships because she's keeping her grades up. So she's not going into debt.
Because BYU is an awesome school.
BYU is an awesome school.
Go Cougs.
Well, actually, she's a Viking. She's a BYUI.
Go Vikings.
She's a BYUI. But yeah, she's been spared a lot of the problems that a lot of her friends have not been spared. And it's sad. It does make us sad because we grew up with these kids grew up in our house. Yeah. They were here a lot.
Very good kids.
Yeah. Now, as opposed to my son's
these are good farm kids who knew the value of work, who knew the ethics of being kind to your neighbor, of service, were religious, and still they just got messed up because they went and partied too much.
And in our small community, there's even an element of enough of protecting the kids that they'll protect them through. There's a lot of kids who get driven home from DUIs without a DUI. There's a lot of, on these farm roads, you can hide a lot. And there's a lot of kids who are taken home even by the sheriff's department without letting anybody know. It's real on the quiet and down low. A lot of kids who have had some pretty severe alcoholism going by their senior year of high school and not functioning well and having to be protected by community members who are trying to keep the secret. So we've seen that a ton.
It's just such a harder road to hoe.
Yeah, it really
is. It's just, why would you make it that difficult? It's just to fit in.
You don't have to go through that struggle with addiction and make it to the other side to connect with God. A lot of people feel like that's...
Because a lot of those kids to date have not.
They haven't seen the other side of it.
They have not.
No. Definitely extends that time period. And, it's such a crazy time of their lives when they go out to college and, they're free, their first taste of freedom. And so much is offered to them on the plate that is just disastrous for their
It's part of the experience.
future. Yeah, but and a lot of other things come with that. Like we have people who are date raped because of alcohol. There's just so much that safety and things.
How
that
dare
go
you
along with
blame it
that.
on alcohol?
Well, it's a big part of
How
it.
dare you?
It's a big part of it. But yeah, so I love the word of wisdom. I love what it's afforded me. I love what it's protected my children from. I love what it's taught them. I love that it's taught them about wisdom and the value of wisdom and how important that word is and how important it is to use that in their lives.
So, is it a commandment or is it just good counsel?
Well, I think it is a commandment as soon as you have to obey it to get into the temple. If you need to be doing it to receive your ordinances to return to your Heavenly Father, I believe it's a commandment.
It certainly becomes part of the things you covenant to.
Yeah.
That's for sure, right?
Yeah, it's a commandment. And I know a lot of people will say it's just a guideline, or it's just, it's not. A lot of people, when they introduce the word of wisdom to others, will say it's not a commandment. It's just something that we're told to keep us safe and stuff like that. And it is something that keeps us safe. But if it wasn't as important as it is, we wouldn't have to. If it was just a guideline, it wouldn't keep us out of the temple if we didn't obey it.
But that's my thought is, what's the diff? Is it a commandment or is it good counsel? Yeah, it's both. Every commandment is there to keep us. It has nothing to do with being good or bad. It has everything to do with keeping us out of misery.
Well, let's talk about this. Okay? Let's talk about some counsel from prophets, right? So, for example, a counsel from a prophet would be not to get a tattoo. Okay? Well, do you get asked in a Temple Recommend interview if you have a tattoo?
No.
No. Is it a commandment not to get a tattoo?
No.
Yeah. So that's counsel, right? So the difference between the word of wisdom and not getting a tattoo or a nose piercing is that not obeying the word of wisdom will keep you out of the temple. So to me, that is the difference. Is if it will keep me from
and
being
getting
able
a tattoo will not have the extreme penalties or consequences of addiction and everything else.
People can get addicted to it.
But obviously it's a total different ballgame, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think you would be very heavily counseled if you started showing up with it all over your body. I'm sure that they'd...
On my neck.
Yeah, on your
I don't know. Nowadays, I bet you priesthood leaders would just be, hey, man, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, probably. Maybe.
I love that you're here, and that's a great tattoo. And I think that's okay.
It just
that's
doesn't
good.
matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter as much. But I think that's the difference between counsel and commandment, in my opinion. It's not doctrinal. I'd be interested to know if someone really knows the difference. They could tell us in the comments.
I'm pretty sure it's a commandment. I'm good with it being a commandment. That is also good counsel, like all commandments are. Thou shalt not kill. That's pretty good counsel. Yeah, that's pretty good counsel.
That's pretty good counsel.
So, anything else that we want to talk about?
On the word of wisdom?
We talked about it a little bit, but just once again, for us, this is a very real topic because we are not far away from the impacts of the word of wisdom.
Right.
Whether it's the health, what you eat, coffee, alcohol, whatever. We are not far from that. And we have seen the dramatic difference in our life. So for us, it is a very real reminder. It's real. It's a real thing. And we've tried to make it real for our kids. And it's pretty easy to see for them as well. We're just grateful for the word of wisdom. I am certainly grateful for it in my life. Yeah. Could you imagine what I would be without the word of wisdom?
I wouldn't like you very much.
You would not. I don't think you probably don't like me that much with.
Not true.
Let alone.
Not true. No, I think that it's definitely a blessing for us. It's not been a good thing in either of our families for sure.
No.
Lots of mean drunks on both sides.
We know who we would be. So once again, just as a reminder, what we're trying to do here. This is at best our journaling. We're horrible at journaling, so we just putting this out there for our children and our posterity because we enjoy doing it this way. This is our medium. Hopefully, if it benefits others, Mazel Tov, great. Love to have you along for the ride. But this ain't specifically for you. So if you do or don't, good luck to you. But this is for our progeny. So that's what we're doing it for.
Yeah. But for all those out there who are traveling this road alongside of us, our love goes out to you and all that you're doing. And don't forget to keep gripping that iron.
Gripping that iron.